Hello everyone and welcome to Cappuccino with HR. My name is Rudi Bauer and after 40 years in business I'm 100% sure that the success of companies is directly related to the passion of the people working for these companies. With the Cappuccino of HR we created a format where we really invite people, it's HR leaders, it's recruiters, it's talent acquisition guys, and we're talking about all the different kind of topics, and the range is going from AI of course to new work, to leadership, and all the challenges along the way. Yeah, hello and welcome to another episode, and this is the last one this year. As you probably can see, we're very close to Christmas, and I'm really delighted to have Hung Lee with us. So hello, Hung. It's a pleasure to have you in Vienna.
Always a pleasure to see you, Rudy. Always a pleasure to be in this amazing city, mate.
And I think we will make it a tradition now because I think it's the second time that we do a recap of a year and an outlook into the next one. So, and I think we did it twice now. And if we continue doing it next year, I think then it's a tradition and then we are not allowed to stop it.
We have to go for the hat trick in 2026. Let's make it happen, man.
Yeah, really cool. And today we are really talking about, I think it was a tough year. 2025 was really tough. I think there was a lot of things going on. And I'm really interested in your take on it. What do you think was probably the most positive surprise for you in 2025, and what was also probably the most negative one?
Positive surprise. I think that we finally have a maturation of our understanding of where AI is going to fall into the world of talent acquisition. So it's a positive surprise. We can see that there's theoretical, there's practical implementations and increasing case studies as to how artificial intelligence can actually help talent acquisition. So that was a huge sort of positive in 2025 for me. As you say, tough year, lots of reasons for that, and it'd be naive to think that 2026 would be any better. I think it's very obvious we're moving towards a very strange kind of world where, the old systems of all sorts, political, cultural, ideological, economic, all starting to change. And we're just hanging on in there, trying to survive what this change looks like. So the chaos will continue, but there's threads of positivity throughout it.
And do you think that we have done a step forward into preparing ourselves for the age of AI? To see this kind of trend and movement, or is it still this kind of, oh my God, what's coming up there? And some enthusiastic guys and some that are really afraid and have a hell of a lot of fear?
Yeah, it's hard to say whether you can prepare for it because, humanity is 8 billion people, divided in between 258 countries, whatever it is. And in between that, it's divided into thousands of sub-communities and even down to the individual level. So what I've found interesting is that there's people that have been very progressive personally with the use of AI and they're become true believers, but they're quite a small minority. And they're typically individuals that are either solopreneurs, so they have a lot of freedom, they have got access to time. You need time to learn this stuff, therefore they got into it and they can move forward. There's some people that run small businesses that have been progressive, and that's more or less it. I think most people who have got jobs basically are in this weird position where operationally they're under so much pressure that they're simply applying more effort to traditional processes to try and get those results, which makes sense because to try and completely reinvent what they're doing, even with more efficient stuff, is going to take more time. And the clocks that we work to don't suit that type of transition. So if you think about how we as employees are judged, very rarely can you get away with 2-3 weeks of a project where you're not doing operational work and you're actually, researching a new way of working. You actually have a weekly stand-up, don't you? You have a daily stand-up, don't you? You have a weekly retro, don't you? So there's your clock, right? So you basically have that internal pressure to justify yourself on a daily, weekly basis. That is not enough time to have a true deep dive as to reinvent your process with artificial intelligence. So you look at all of the levels of people working in business, they'll have a similar clock, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly.
Yeah.
These are too fast. They spin too fast for you to make substantive change. So the advantage goes to those that have got somehow the space to make the change.
And I mean, you have been at a lot of conferences, and I mean, I have been at a lot of conferences this year as well. And what I've seen, and that's really thriving me since months now, and I'm playing around, and I released a kind of a series of articles on LinkedIn the last couple of days, where I started thinking about what do we need to stay future-proof as companies. And what I found out, and I want to get your take and your opinion on it as well, is that at the end of the day, we need to understand three things. Companies need to understand business, of course. They need to understand technology, and they need to understand humans. Because, I mean, we have topics on all three layers. I mean, we are in a crisis. I mean, there is a kind of tough situation economically out most of the markets. We have AI and we have technology with a speed that we probably never had before. And we have things which we shouldn't ignore and we can't ignore any longer, like mental health issues, like well-being issues, like diversity, inclusion, all these kind of topics that we probably try to get rid again, because in crisis mode, it's much easier to get rid of them, because not to think about it, it's more probably easy. But how could we achieve, and that is why I call it Trinity for future-proof, because I think we need to get rid of the silos, and we need to bring HR people to talk to tech people. We need to tech people to talk and understand CEOs' roles and CEOs' ways of thinking. Have you seen any kind of conferences putting their programs into that directions?
There's always going to be like leading edge case studies where company X has done something amazing. We should all follow that. Probably a canonical example that would look back on in 2025 was, Moderna merging their HR and IT division and saying, you know what, actually, these are both business enablement functions, so they shouldn't be separate anymore. Because, what is an AI worker versus a human worker? They're both trying to achieve an objective. They're both a capability for the company, and they should be managed in a single unit. So we are seeing examples of this type. But I think the wider question is, like, how do we make sure, when you talk about how do we make sure we get the business efficiency, but we don't lose the human experience? I personally don't see any organization making a truly radical shift to achieve both of those ends. I think there's a hierarchy of one over the other. And the hierarchy is the business efficiency, number one, and then the human experience is kind of like tacked on at the end. They say, of course, we want to make it okay for everyone else. But the reality is the embedded imperative is to become more efficient, more profitable, and then outcompete everyone else and dominate the market share by doing it this way. I mean, what I'd like to see, which I haven't seen, to solve the problem and try and get, if you like, more people on board, would be a radical change in the ownership structure of the business. Have I seen a business, for instance, suddenly turn into a cooperative? Right? Have we seen a listed business say, you know what, we need to make sure everyone owns part of the business. Therefore, everyone owns the success or failure of the business. Everyone's got to share it right now. We're switching on. Haven't seen that. But it requires that type of transition of ownership structure to suddenly get everyone switched on to AI, because there's a big relationship difference between who's pro AI and who's anti AI, and it's based on who owns the company.
And I mean, you're traveling a lot. I think you're on all the continents, and you spread your wings around the planet. Is there a region where, say, they're probably 2 steps ahead of this way of thinking?
No, I don't think so. I think the US is particular. We kind of casually like to say, oh, the US is ahead, this, that, and the other, but there are also tons of companies that are way behind. But where the US is ahead is in the AI first movement came from the US, and there's still some very aggressive AI first companies out there, which operate really on the edge of like almost a transhumanist type of vibe, So I'm personally not pro this level of extremism. Because it's like, at the end of the day, there's this sense that the human is kind of an obstacle to remove. It's like, is that really the case? For me, that's not the case. But that will be tested in the market. So, for instance, if you get a AI first company that progressively reduces payroll, but actually outperforms everyone else, then guess what? Everyone's going to do the same.
Yeah.
Because that's the competition. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to wait and see. I have a theory that, actually not even a theory, maybe it's just a hope. I have a hope that the human value added, so to say, will still be decisive at the right moments.
Yeah.
But I also have a fear that this human value added will get thrown away without us even being aware it was ever there. There's some nuances that basically are not captured in an official way. So one way to think about it is that if you think about how a business operates, there's a formal way it operates in the sense this is the org chart, this is the job description, this is the protocols, this is how it's all written down.
Yeah.
Then there's the informal way it works, which everyone kind of knows, okay, this is how it really happens, right?
Yeah, of course.
And the informal isn't written down, but that's the operating system, the true operating system of the business is the informal. Now, I think what will happen is that we're going to throw away the informal almost accidentally because we're going to automate the formal. Right? Yeah. And we'll think, why does this taste different? It's because you've automated. It's the same thing as like taking a recipe of a cake, thinking this is how it's make the cake, and you just industrialize it and mass produce it. It suddenly tastes different. Why? Don't know. Because there's some magic that you missed in the original creation of the recipe.
I think this is the ingredient of human love and inspiration, motivation, and enthusiasm and passion, probably, which we then see in restaurants, which we also see in probably in these workflows. And that is why I brought up this Trinity concept. And I mean, we're having a hell of a lot of congresses next year. So, and we have already had a discussion to bring you to most of them because I would love to see you there.
I'll definitely be there in Berlin. But yeah, if there's any others you want me to be there, let me know, man. Because I think what you guys do is actually a very, very clear contribution to breaking down these silos. I mean, tech has always been kind of difficult territory for non-technical people because the language is different, behaviors are different. A lot of the it's probably the most alien function within the business when you think about it. So yeah, I mean, we are developers have just done a wonderful thing trying to bridge it into other functions, and yeah, I think that's super important going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I think. I brought up an example at a keynote that I did a couple of weeks ago when I said, okay, I found a study, and I think that was a starting point. I found a study where a company from San Francisco was doing a research on candidate experience, and they found out that over the last 15 years, candidate experience hasn't really changed. So it stayed as worse or as good it was for the last 15 years, and I think I have not been in a single conference the last 10, 15 years since I'm in that business where people were not talking, or the program issues on the program were not talking about candidate experience. So there was put a lot of effort into it, but without reaching any success. And then I said, okay, I mean, we have probably at our conference, we have the world best UX designers. And I mean, the UX designers, what are they doing? They are really constructing, and I use this term now, they're really constructing customer journeys, and they know they have found tools, they have found methodologies, they have found ways of really constructing it. Why don't HR people talk to UX designers?
Absolutely.
I mean, DevOps and HR ops honestly, it's the same kind of issue. They're dealing with the same frictionless operation in a kind of a system. So why don't these people put their heads together and say, okay, what can we learn from each other? And I think that is what we are aiming for, because honestly, I think that's probably solving the issue, that we get rid of the silos if they start talking to each other. And I was at a lot of HR conferences this year, and I was always shocked and surprised in a way that at the end of the day, there was great speakers on stage, there was great vendors out in the exhibition areas, but I always had a little bit the impression that the people were shown solutions for problems they don't even have recognized. I mean, there was 1 square meter booths of a lot of startups, and they were all talking about, and honestly, I love this passion. They were talking about disrupting the whole HR market with their solution on 1 square feet, on 1 square meter of booths. And I really love this energy, but at the end of the day, I think it's like putting someone who wants to renovate his house into a kind of a store with a lot of drilling machines and a lot of stuff and a lot of materials without helping them to really build with these materials. And I think that's the situation that I see if you put a lot of AI solutions in front of HR people. They haven't even analyzed, as you said, the processes. They don't even know where the problem lays, but they get a lot of tools.
Well, what's that? Actually, HR have recognized this problem. Like one of the interesting conversational threads that have emerged in the HR and TA world in 2025 is a recognition that they're just overwhelmed by pilots. We've got loads of things that we're testing everything, implementing very little, and actually not getting any value from the stuff we have implemented. So the HR themselves are aware that this is an issue, and what do they go ahead and do with that? Some theories as to why that is. A lot of them align with what you've mentioned, Rudi. Is such as firstly, abundance bias. Like, how do you make a decision on the supplier when you just don't know? There's so many suppliers out there. The innovation rate of all of those suppliers is iterating so fast that if you make a decision today, is that the right decision 2 days later? Maybe it isn't. So you wait. So nothing happens. And also, I think there's this general sense that existing suppliers, that a lot of the ideal case for a HR or TA function is for the existing supplier to produce the innovation, because then you don't have to do any of the switching issues. And obviously the existing suppliers are speeding up. Whether they're producing best of breed or not, I don't know. But their promise of doing so is a little bit more compelling than it was before, because they can deliver at a much faster rate than both builder and buyer were previously aware of. So yeah, it's very difficult, very tough for them to accelerate. I think 2026 they'll be kind of diving into the deep end already, because they can't hold back any further. They're just going to take the plunge. So it should be good for vendors next year, I would say. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
What was the solution that you saw when you were traveling and when you were at conferences that motivated you most, or where you said, okay, this is really creative, or this is really bringing us one step forward? Do you have something in mind?
Did you talk about a particular talk or a particular
It could be talk, it could be topic, it could be a solution.
I think there's some genuinely challenging solutions that have emerged onto the marketplace, which I do think are going to have a transformative effect on big chunks of the recruitment sort of pipeline, or the way in which recruitment traditionally done. Like, I've used a lot of the agentic sort of AI type solutions. They're hugely impressive. And they're going to make a big difference in an area of recruiting which previously occupied a lot of recruiters' time. So what that tells me is that the recruitment function will undergo transformation with a capital T. It's not like a transformation is a word we casually throw around. But the transformation I'm referring to here is like a caterpillar to butterfly type transformation. It's like boiling everything down to the DNA and rebuilding it from scratch. So that what happens in the end is no longer TA. It will be some other function that enables the business, of which talent will be a significant part of. But it won't be the concept of, okay, we're going to dedicate a function who's, going to go out and outcompete everyone by, mining a database more efficiently. I think the AIs will all mine the databases very efficiently, and therefore they'll level the playing field such that you need to do something else to encourage people to work with you in some way, or find some other solution to achieve the outcome you wanted from that recruitment demand. So yeah.
I did a talk in Amsterdam where the title was "How Will Recruiter Excellence Look Like in 2035?" So in 10 years from now. And I really was looking into the glass ball and tried to kind of talk about my vision and my thoughts. And by accident, I used a term which I used the same letters I used TA, but I changed the meaning, and I got really cool responses on this detail, because I changed the name from talent acquisition, which I anyhow never liked, because acquisition has always to do with acquiring something on a market, means you try to save money and it's always seen as pure costs. So that is it's a kind of a purchasing mentality. But I changed it to talent architect. And then I got a really, really nice messages on LinkedIn where the people said, okay, they really loved that I called it architects instead of acquisition. What's your take on it? Will this be probably the new role of HR or recruiting or talent acquisition?
I think it may well be along the path. I mean, I guess we're all kind of marching towards singularity, right? So it depends how far you want to like project forward in the future. So I think 2035 is already, I think, well on the way towards what that looks like. I think the next couple of years we'll definitely see the dropping of the acquisition. That's even now explicit. Some of it is self-preservation, by the way, because the era of companies constantly growing, which create this demand for talent acquisition, is over. So companies are not growing in that way. In fact, they're shrinking, and we can project them to continue to shrink, is my opinion. So the absolute size, we've probably hit peak headcount, therefore we've hit peak TA, is my view. And so we need to think about business outcomes. Like, what does the business actually need? And in this era of AI, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to hire a human being anymore. If I was, for instance, trying to open a market in Sweden, 5 years ago, probably the right thing to do would be to hire some general manager in Stockholm and get him or her to hire a bunch of salespeople in Stockholm. That's the way to do it. But is that the right decision today?
No,
I don't know.
Probably not.
And you can basically that clones across any function. Like again, if I was a CTO 5 years ago and I wanted to produce a software service that would have 100 million users worldwide, have zero latency, constant uptime, whatever, I'd probably be able to guesstimate how many headcount I would need to do that. I probably need 100 developers to do that. Do you need 100 developers to do that in 2026? Don't know.
Probably not.
Is it 25? But we definitely not 100. But we actually don't know what the real number is. So we have a right sizing problem, right? So we don't know how to right size these functions, which ultimately means we don't actually recruit for them, which means that we find other solutions for that. Now, what I think and I hope is the opportunity for the HR, TA, people ops function is to understand the genuine purpose of that function is to enable the business to achieve an outcome. And we want to be able to be the organization that can expand scope such that we can provide solutions that don't necessarily mean a human hire. That's a massive expansion of what we're doing. But I think we should do it. We should try and reach for those expansions because, we've got there's some reason for the people ops functions to do this, meaning firstly, we know how jobs are performed. We're good at job design. We understand probably better than most how AI will impact those jobs or what an AI hybrid type function looks like. Therefore, we'll start thinking, okay, maybe we can design such a thing that will provide the optimal solution for the company, even if it isn't the classic, let's hire 10 people for Stockholm.
Yeah. I mean, because we always get the question as we are having a kind of a large community of software developers. I mean, how this role will change. And honestly, I started my career as a software developer in 1986 or 1987. And even then, and if I was looking back, honestly, I never liked coding in the way of putting brackets right. What I really liked is talk to someone and somebody was explaining a problem. And immediately when the guys started telling me the problem, I started building the solution in my head. I mean, that was for me the fantastic part of being a software developer. I really loved building a solution and solving a problem with probably with code, of course, or with code at this time. And I think it's the same. Probably it's the same for talent acquisition. I mean, at the end of the day, I think people like to solve problems. And as you explained, probably in the future we don't hire 100 people. We probably hire 15 and then some agents that do some parts of the work. So honestly, I think it's this kind of putting together the right solution by finding the right tools to solve it.
Yeah, and the hybrid future will be there because there's a reason why a human being is still a superior option, let's say, to an AI right now. And one of those reasons is the human beings are super adaptable, super flexible, and much more able to handle the unexpected. Like one thing we've seen with artificial intelligence is that they are really extremely efficient at handling low variance environments. So in other words, if we can completely control variables, like this room, for instance, we're in a studio, we control the sound, the lighting, everything.
Yeah.
Of course, we can continue to have a great conversation. AI is great when you can control the room like this.
Yeah.
But in the real world, quote unquote, and the real world here might mean the digital world outside of an enclosed platform you control. The environment is unsafe. Like you have a broken website. You have some spyware here. You have someone who's done something unusual with some technology somewhere.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I tried to, for instance, to book a restaurant, I think, on a mobile app in Vienna, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, obviously, traditional Viennese restaurant, very historical, etc. I should have predicted that the mobile experience would be terrible. And it was like you couldn't execute on it.
Yeah.
You're in this weird loop. And I'm thinking, okay, if that was an AI on my mobile phone, it would probably just keep looping faster and faster because it can't think that actually this is a website built by a guy who probably already retired from development, forgot about it. Someone else has like layered some UI on top of it, which is completely unrelated to the code. And it's like, okay, there's flaws in this system as a result of what's happened. Yeah. So the human being, particularly an expert human being, I think will carry a premium into this new world. So there's going to be some winners in this function. Obviously, everyone's personal responsibility to be one of those winners in whatever domain that you're in. However, it should also be recognized that the people who are going to win are essentially a smaller number, much smaller number than the people who stand to potentially be displaced or disrupted. Yeah. So we've got this joint responsibility, number one, to ourselves to be a winner. And then number two, like how can we expand the envelope so that more people have the opportunity to win? Now, maybe that's a function for people ops in some way. Yeah. You have an existing company of 150 people, for instance. Maybe 10% of those people are going to be leading edge to know how to do it. But can you make that into 20%? Like, can you train those people? Can you guide them to success? Can you even design the jobs such that they'll be exposed to these opportunities? I'm hoping we get to a point where we recognize the value of inefficiency. So part of the problem we have with efficiency, we should have learned this in COVID. We did learn it in COVID, but instantly forgot it during AI. Yeah. Right. Which is, if you have a super efficient system, it's actually really bad when a black swan event happens because the super efficient system has no buffer. Yeah. Of course. The smallest thing will break the entire chain and it falls apart. Yeah. So in other words, efficiency is anti-resilience. Yeah. Resilience basically is anti-efficiency. It is. Right. You're training, you're basically creating redundant capacities, right? So anyway, we've forgotten all about this during AI, but we need to bring back this concept. And therefore, not to say you should tap the brakes on efficiency, keep going forward, but understand that resiliency has to go in parallel with this. Yeah, of course. I think that includes bringing humans into the loop.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think? Where do we have to start? I mean, we're all talking about skill shifts. We are talking about skills that have to be put another focus on skills. We are talking about skills-based hiring. What do you think is the most important skill to be successful on this journey?
I don't think it's a skill. I think it's a characteristic. Okay. I think it is resilience. So resilience is basically your ability to bounce back quickly from a disaster. Now, I use a sports analogy here. The best penalty takers in football are not the ones that are technically best at executing a kick from 18 yards, right? They're the guys that basically have the ability to simply go back to elite performance even if they miss. It takes them 60 seconds to recover and then they're back on it. Yeah. A bad penalty taker is someone who takes it to 10 minutes because in that 10 minutes you're going to concede another goal or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So how do you train for resiliency? How do you bounce back from adversity quickly without having half a day's worth of feeling sorry for yourself? Now, thankfully, you can train for it. So maybe it is a skill. I don't know. But I think it's also one of those where you need to be subjected to failure and then have somehow found the character to respond to that. Then that sort of builds some sort of scarring tissue, which is toughens you up. I mean, back in the old day, we call that character building, right? It's character building stuff. You just toughen yourself up. But I think being tough in this environment, because you're going to get knocked down, is going to be one of the biggest things you can do. So we probably need to train for toughness in society and in companies. And so
when should you start doing this? Is it in kindergarten? Or
yeah, SAP. I like it. I mean, we're not talking about, putting the child out to survive the environment, like, the ancient Spartans. Nothing like this. But it is about like subjecting yourself and your family or your colleagues to controlled adversity, because they're going to encounter uncontrolled adversity at some point, right? And controlled adversity ultimately is quite safe. It's nothing devastating is going to happen, but you're testing the edges of the comfort zone. And getting them comfortable with being uncomfortable, such that they don't like have a massive meltdown if they ever enter into that discomfort again. It's called expanding the performance. Have I ever talked to you about performance cages?
No.
Shall we give you a segue on performance cages?
Yes, of course.
So there's a sports psychologist called Willy Relo, who is a Swedish, again, I'm not obsessed with Swedes, but anyway, Swedish sports psychologist Willy Relo, whatever his name is. He talked about his expertise was training the silver medalist competitors on how to get to gold medal. So he wasn't talking to the gold medalists. He was talking to the people who never made the gold for whatever reason. Very, very elite, very good. But for some reason during competition, they always got beat by some other guy who in non-competitive times, they were just technically better than him. But when it mattered, this other guy beat him. And he came up with this concept of a performance cage, meaning there's two levels of the performance cage. First level at the top, which is the performance where you accept your elite performance, but any performance above this level, you self-doubt because you think I'm not good enough, right? You think I really can't be that good. Therefore, you self-sabotage yourself back down to that bottom level. Then you have the bottom level of the performance cage, which is below which you perform. You end up questioning whether you should give up. So, right, you've proven you're terrible. Give up, you're not good enough. So that's the bottom of it, right? Now, all of the silver medalists came to Willy Relo and they wanted to raise the top bar. And Willy Relo said no. Because what happens is when you raise the top bar, the distance between the top and bottom stays constant. You just raise the entire cage upwards. And what happens when you do that is that your tolerance of failure actually decreases.
Of course.
So you run into crisis very soon. And we all know a classic example of the straight A student that absolutely goes to have a mental breakdown when they get A minus, right? Because they can't handle just a small setback.
Of course.
Crushes them. Now, in elite performance, that's devastating because that means that person can't handle adversity. Now, what Relo said is what you got to do is lower the bottom bar. In other words, you got to learn to fail and in fact, embrace failure, test failure, enjoy it, enjoy the discomfort. Because if you push the bottom barrier down, you expand the performance cage. And so your comfort zone, which is what the performance cage is, you accept any performance level because that's you. And you end up performing higher because you're more relaxed at the top level. So anyway, that's Willy Relo's performance cage theory in short.
That's very cool, but I think that needs to be implemented in organizations as well. And I mean, we are not really good in failure culture. So I mean,
not at all. We're terrible. We penalize it. And yes, you shouldn't tolerate incompetence or failures, where nothing is learned. But you need to provide scope for experimentation such that failure is kind of presumed to be inevitable. And then the lesson is, can you bounce back from it? Like, can we teach people to immediately bounce back and not have a crisis? Like, let's shorten the period of time. Even if you do almost like the incremental, like, it's taking me 30 seconds instead of 35 seconds today. Great. That's progress because it means you're back on it. And over time, you start setting the internal clock, so it doesn't matter whatever failure you make, you're still rolling forward at the same relaxed performance, and that gives you more chance of hitting elite.
I mean, I have a funny thing with, we are topic-wise. I think that the term resilience very, very much. I mean, it's heard on every conference, and we think it's even in job descriptions. If you look at job, it's resilience is there. And I have a private project where I do some interviews with people and I'm talking about life and what they experienced in their lives. And it's really going from young people to old people. And I think the oldest person that I interviewed and was speaking with was 90. And this guy was born in the middle of two world wars.
Mm.
And I think they really had a lot of problems to solve in their lives.
Mm.
And then I asked him, where have you got, because he was extremely optimistic. He was extremely positive. He was extremely standing with two legs in life, as we say in Austria. And I asked him, where have you got your resilience? And he was looking at me and said, what is resilience? Do we make it too much a topic already? Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, because I have the same kind of feeling towards the concept of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is confidence?
Yeah,
what is it exactly? You have confidence or you don't have? Like, is it something you possess? And it turns out if you just ignore it, then in fact it appears as confidence to other people. So it's actually an external observation. And maybe resilience has an element of this, where it's something that externally people observe and then apply to you. So that person's resilient. But perhaps a truly resilient person doesn't actually feel as if they own it, but it's simply, okay, I got to get on with it. And there's that kind of getting on with it, sort of, again, traditional value, right? Rather than wallowing in some sort of, internal dialogue, but you've just realized, okay, there's limitations to what can be achieved by mentally cycling this through. We've got to just keep going. That itself, I think, is trainable, and it's a worthy thing to kind of have. I think if you had a team of people, 100% of your business with that approach, you're going to kind of do more than okay.
I mean, I'm looking at the watch and I think the time is passing by extremely quickly. So, but I want to, as we are really look like buddies from Santa Claus today, I think we are helping these guys. So, what is on your wish list, on your personal wish list, if it comes to HR, if it comes to companies, if it comes to business success for 2026?
It's not a wish list. It's actually an objective. So I have an objective next year, which is to try and make the keep what you kill. And apologies for the rather violent sort of term there. I want to make sure the keep what you kill policy is well known throughout the HR sector, which is an attempt to say we're going to help automate as many processes as possible, but the excess time that you save by doing the automation needs to be retained by the operational function that has created it, such that they can reapply or reinvest that time into the higher value work that they say they want to do. So it doesn't just go back into the business per se. Because right now, I think part of the reason why AI, sort of HR and TA have struggled to adopt at the speed that satisfies the CEO is because actually a lot of people are resisting, even in subconsciously, what the implications are, which is, what does this mean? Does it mean I lose my job? Okay, so you apply the keep what you kill policy such that people are then aligned to actually move forward with automation and acceleration, because the time saved will be returned to them rather than go into the business.
A good one, really good one. I think that's important one as well, to free up the people. And I think we all went into HR because we wanted to talk to people, we wanted to deal with people, we want to help and support people. And I think we lost the ground and we lost the space throughout the last couple of years by doing a lot of administrative stuff. And if we get rid of this stuff by AI, I think we should get freed up for the human things.
100%. Yeah.
Really cool. Before we come to an end, I want to do a kind of quick this or that. Yeah. And you're not like a situation that you can read it with me because we're sitting in the same studio. But let's start with the first one: hybrid work or fully remote.
So I just choose one of them with no explanation, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, hybrid work.
Okay. AI recruiter assistant or human recruiter with superpowers?
I'd say human recruiter with superpowers.
Skill first hiring or experience first hiring?
Oh, I'll throw a complete clangor of a controversy, but it's experience first hiring.
Big workforce or lean workforce?
Big workforce or lean? It's lean.
It's lean. Okay. And the last one, office culture or digital culture?
I think it's both. Culture is culture. I think office can be a cultural. It's a leverage for culture potentially. So yeah, I can't give an answer one way or the other on this, because I think the culture is not either or of those two things.
Yeah, I think then we are already at the end for this episode, and I want to thank you for taking your time, coming to Vienna, making it possible to really do it in person, which I really love most. I think that's the best of doing a podcast. I really enjoy that. And that's not in the script, and I hope it works now because there's a person in the background, and I really asked Ivana if she could come on stage as well.
Oh, good. She's coming in. There we go. Even better.
We will take you somewhere here in the middle.
Hello.
Hey,
how you doing?
Yeah, I really want to say thank you, Ivana. It was great to work with you, and I'm really looking forward to all the sessions and episodes that we'll have next year. So it was great. We started a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago. We did, I think, 49 episodes this year.
Yeah, so, not 50.
Yeah, not 50. But I think there's more to come, and I'm really looking forward to 2026. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you, Hung. It was a pleasure to do the last episode this year with both of you. So thank you so much. And Merry Christmas to all of you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Cappuccino with HR. If you enjoy this kind of conversations, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Then you get all this kind of upfront information, your upcoming episodes, and all my nice guests. Cappuccino with HR is brought to you by We Are Developers, Europe's #1 developer community and a leading platform for connecting HR and companies together with developers. If you want to learn more, visit us on wearedevelopers.com. Thank you again for watching and see you next time on Cappuccino with HR.